Hello, I'm Wally Haas, and this is Rockford on the Record. I'm with Rockford Mayor Tom McNamara. If you like what we're doing here, if you've seen some of our past episodes, please like our content and subscribe to our channel. It's the City of Rockford channel, so please, we're trying to inform you as much as we can with some of the events going on in town. Today we're talking about economic development. Now, Mr. Mayor, I've got this notebook at home. It says Think Big. And I don't know if it came from your office or the Convention and Visitors Bureau, but is Rockford thinking big in terms of economic development?
Absolutely, Wally. Good to see you, and we are absolutely thinking big. We have partnered with Think Big, the nonprofit organization. Think Big is a fantastic organization that's now been around for several years. They help women and minority entrepreneurs. So they are helping women and minority entrepreneurs who are either starting their business and really want to get it off the ground and do it the right way, or those businesses that have started, but maybe they've hit some barriers and they want to expand. So we are really putting a big and significant focus on women and minority business owners, because if you look around the country, you look here in Rockford, the two groups that are starting the most businesses, small businesses, are women and minorities. And so we at the city are helping them build a brand new space that'll have classrooms, have shared retail space and event space over at the former Jerome Furniture Building that has sat vacant for more than a decade near North Main and Auburn.
You know, Mr. Mayor, no discussion of economic development can go on without talking about downtown. What's happening with downtown?
We got a lot going on downtown, and I probably won't be able to touch on everything, Wally, but I mean, let's first look at the more than $35 million brand new state-of-the-art library that's taking place right on the banks of the river. It's going to be an absolutely transformational experience for people to go into this library. Far different than the old model of the library. Really engaging the river, lots of shared spaces. There's going to be a maker space, a place for kids, just a really wonderful space on our riverfront. And unlike the former library, you're actually going to be able to see the river when you're on the riverbanks. We also have a number of developments taking place. If you look at Cedar Street, there's a couple of older buildings that are going to be transitioned and rehabbed into what some are calling artists living. Smaller space in these units, but it's about an $18 to $24 million redevelopment. You look at 301 South Main Street. That's being brand new construction. Lots of people have seen the cranes around it. It's the first brand new construction on the west side of Rockford in downtown in decades. You're going to have residential on the top floors, retail on the first floor. You look at what is taking place at the Talcott building, totally rehabbed again by Urban Equities. You look at the Burnham Lofts, totally rehabbed again by Urban Equities. The hotel is doing really wonderfully, and we also now have Davis Park that is really getting re-energized. So since the last time we've spoken, we have now taken down the Lorden building. Had a little controversy around that. But taken down the Lorden building, opened up views of the river. And just to remind our listeners, what we're doing there is we're going to have an amphitheater. We're going to have boat docks. We're going to have a skateboarding park there. You're going to also have a splash pads there. You're going to have an urban beach there. And all brand new restrooms there. So it's what our hope is, that it's much more engaging, much more welcoming, and far more active than it's been in its history.
So what kind of tools does the city use to encourage economic development?
So they probably vary from space to space, but since we're talking downtown right now, some of the biggest ones that we use is we use historic tax credits. We are fortunate in the city of Rockford that we are one of 5 communities that get the River Edge historic tax credit. So we couple the state historic tax credit with the federal historic tax credit, which combine about 45 cents. So in essence, the way it's supposed to work is you invest $1, you get 45 cents back on that dollar when you rehab historic buildings. We also use tax increment financing. And then we also have our redevelopment fund, which we rarely use, but we can use to also further incentivize folks.
Now, you also have a community development fund.
Oh, yeah. Yep. So we started our region's first, in the history of our region, our first one ever, called a Community Development Financial Institution, so a CDFI. We named ours a Rockford Community Development Fund. And so what this does is the city of Rockford allocated $1 million to this fund. Then myself and the members of this fund brought together banks in our community and had them contribute to it. And so they've contributed hundreds of thousands of dollars to it. And the goal is to get federal dollars from the Treasury Department to invest. So now that we have this big pool of money, what the heck are we going to do with it? So what we do with this is we go into our neighborhoods, specifically low and moderate income neighborhoods, and we take those dilapidated structures or vacant structures, and we provide loans to contractors, local contractors, to rehab these properties and sell them to single-family owner-occupied residents. So it's a win for everyone. They've already done 19 of these in their first year of existence, which is phenomenal. But if you think about it, we're putting people to work, local contractors. We're taking that dilapidated property that dragged everyone's property value, and we're reinvesting in it. And we're putting more families and owner-occupied residents into these neighborhoods. And we know when you have an owner-occupied resident, in a higher percentage of owner-occupied residents in your neighborhood, it strengthens your neighborhood, makes it more stable and safer.
You know, when we talk about development, one of the areas we've talked about for decades now is Barber Colman. Is there any progress there?
Yeah, so there is progress with Barber Colman. So we are working with a company called J. Jeffers out of Wisconsin. So Barber Colman, for those who aren't really aware of it, it's a dilapidated campus of buildings along South Main Street. Barber Colman used to house almost 5,000 jobs. It was like the beacon of our success. And over the last 25 years, it's been vacant and dilapidated. So we partnered with J. Jeffers out of Wisconsin. Their concept is to really build a city within a city. And so we are working right now with them on a $400 million development agreement. And so that would be 900 new units there. That would be retail uses, entertainment uses, potential office uses in that space. So we are really excited about what potentially can happen. Now, we're still in the negotiations of that development agreement, so I don't want to, count on it yet, but we are moving very quickly closer and closer to a final deal.
That would be one of the top 5 projects ever in the city of Rockford, dollar-wise.
Well, I appreciate you putting the pressure on me like that. I did not think of it that way. Honestly, what I think of it is you look at that southwest quadrant of Rockford, and for so long I feel like, well, I know those residents feel like they've been neglected. And truthfully, in part they have. But you have a brand new South Main Street, you have an airport on one end of it, that's the largest economic engine in our region. You have the hotel in downtown that buttresses it on the other end. You have Mercy Health, or you have Swedish American, who has built a new clinic on Marquesano. We've built a new fire station. Lots of energy taking place. And also, Urban Equities is redoing the former MegaFab facility and turning that into luxury loft apartments. So a lot is taking place on South Main. And the one thing we haven't mentioned is we are going to get a train. The state has allocated $250 million for that train. And that bus station will be on South Main Street. So lots is taking place on South Main. Great time to invest in South Main.
Great, a lot of good things going on in the city. Once again, if you like what we're doing here, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to our channel. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's it for this episode of Rockford on the Record.